Welcome to this short tutorial on installing Lansweeper. This video tutorial covers the easy install, which is sufficient for most users up to 1000 assets. When performing an easy install, the database will be set up under Microsoft SQL Compact Database Server, and the Lansweeper service, database and web console will be installed on the same machine. Let's start the installation. Once you've downloaded the latest version of Lansweeper from the Lansweeper website, open the installer on your machine and you'll be greeted by the setup wizard. Simply click next and start by going over the license agreement. Once you've finished reading the license agreement, you can click I agree. Next up, you'll be asked to either select an easy or an advanced install. In this video, we'll be covering the easy install, so we'll select easy. Next up, we'll be asked to select the ports that the web console will use. Lansweeper will automatically detect the next two available ports for your web console. And then following that, the installer will ask us for either the default installation folder, or if you want to, you can select a custom folder to install Lansweeper on. Once you click on install, the installation will continue. Once the installation has completed, you can click on finish. And once you navigate to the web console, you'll be greeted by this, first run wizard. The first thing it'll ask you is for either your email if you do not have a license key. So we can send you a license key and you can unlock your installation. Or if you already have a license key, you can click on the checkbox here and simply insert it. For this webinar, we'll simply use one of our license keys that we have. There we go. So next we'll be starting the configuration of Lansweeper in the first run wizard. The first thing I'll ask you is which IP ranges you'd like to scan. This is based on the subnets that the machine that you've installed Lansweeper on is located on. On this machine, there's only one subnet, so only one IP range that we can select. But if there is multiple, you can select them or deselect them, as you can see. Then next up, we have all the different types of scanning targets that are in Lansweeper. So you could simply select them all, or leave it to the default ones. Most likely you'll select the scanning targets for the devices that you have in your network. So if you do not have, for example, if you do not have vCenter, then you can just leave it out. Or if you have AWS or Azure in there, then be sure to check those. Just to kind of go through everything, I'll select all of them now, so you can see everything. One last thing on this page is if you want more information about the scanning target or the type of devices, you can also just hover over the question mark and you'll get some more information, as well as a link to our knowledge base, which has additional information such as requirements or how you would scan them within Lansweeper as well. So on this page, you'll get some general info about the credentials. For example, why are the credentials needed? Obviously, you'll need credentials to retrieve the data. Otherwise, we'll only get some very basic information. But for the details that you like to get, you need credentials. It's simply as that. And for the security, all the passwords are encrypted with a unique key that is, unique to your installation. So it's fully secured. Then next up, we'll be going through all the different asset types and their credentials. Again, if you want more information, then there's always a question mark at the top that links to the knowledge base article that has all the information about what type of credentials it needs to be, what the permissions need to be, etc. So for example, here in the Windows, it's already detected our username because it's taken the username from this computer. For the password, I'll just simply fill in the password here. For Windows, just make sure it's local. The account has local administrative permissions. I won't go into many details for the other assets. As I mentioned, if you want the information, it's always available to find exactly what you need. And for things like network devices, this would be an SNMP community. That's quite standardized, so usually that's public. It could also be private, but private is usually used for read and write access. So this is pretty default. If you have a different SNMP community, then fill it in there. We're going to skip vCenter for now and ESXi. I'm just skipping them because I've given the example earlier, so you know what to do here. So these credentials, you can add them in the first run wizard, but if you if you select them and skip them anyway, then you can always fill them in later in the credentials area of Lansweeper. So now that we've entered our credentials and clicked on the final button, now you can see that our scan is actually starting. So you'll see some scan statistics as well as the scanning queue on the right side. This page will automatically close after a short time, but you can also just click on finish to continue on to the dashboard. The scan will continue, and meanwhile we're going to take a look at what's already been retrieved. We'll head over to the assets tab where you can see all the assets that have already been pulled in. We'll navigate to one of the Windows assets here. As you can see, there's a lot of information that's already been retrieved here. Obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's much more to discover. You can find more information below to help you set up Lansweeper and discover everything it has to offer. Check out these other videos and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.